Hey, happy midday Friday, everybody. It's Comics Workshop coming to you live from the headquarters of merrickbennett.com. And I always start with a thanks to our patrons over on the Patreon. Thanks for making it possible. Thanks for all your feedback and your support. All right. So I've got a piece of paper here. I've got my pencil with an eraser. I have some inking tools. And I have a whole bunch of ideas of things to draw, but I'm not sure what to focus on. Let's see. We've been doing, for our Friday live draws, we've been doing a lot of winter forest scenes. So let's get this paper ready. Remember my little trick of always tracing around the edge of the paper? I'm just diving right in. You can join us anytime. This is a nice doodle along time. It's a good time midday. We've reached the end of the week. We'll doodle something together. I'm going to work on a picture here. You can draw along. You can copy. You can take it in your own direction. You can get crazy with it. Use your imagination. But I'm going to do like another winter forest scene. I'm going to use some of the stuff we've been trying. I'm going to put a couple trees in. Last week we were doing like a foreground and a background. So I'm going to do a tree. This will be the tree up front here, and there will be another tree in the background. These are going to be so tall, it's going to go off the top of the page and off the bottom of the page. And we're like in the middle of the tree, just looking at the tree. Let's flesh this one out a little bit. Make it a little wider. Give it some room on either side. You can put as many trees as you want in here. We're going to put a couple branches off these too. Maybe this one will make a little thinner. Oh no, that's about the same. Well, you know, sometimes the picture has its own ideas. Let's give this one, if this one's in the front, let's bring a branch off here. You can just kind of go off to the side like that. And let's make that branch a little thicker. And the nice thing we can do with pencil, that's a pretty straight branch, huh? Maybe this branch should like fork a little bit. Maybe it forks this way. Maybe it forks that way. I'll put a couple other branches sticking off. That looks a little more branchy. Didn't want it to look too much like a straight line. And maybe on this side up to this. I have a little idea in my head, but you know, sometimes you get drawing and that idea changes. And I am totally open to that. This is just a loose draw together time. The nice thing with pencil is we can erase any of these lines, make it clear that those branches are in front of that tree. And if I sort of darken this one a little bit, it'll seem to be in front. Usually you think of shadows as being like behind and under, right? But the stuff that's in the foreground, oh, except I have my light shining here. The stuff that's in the foreground, look how dark those shadows are compared to the shadows back here, right? So if we darken this tree, it's going to seem to be closer to us. Maybe I'll just do some scribble darkening in there. Doesn't that already look like it's up ahead a little bit towards us? A little darker, a little more sharper contrast. And this one will be just kind of a faint tree in the background. That already looks like I could go sort of, if I were a bird, I could go flying through these branches. So I had an idea. I saw a friend out there on the branches outside my window just before the live draw started, and I thought we'd try drawing them. So here's my friend. I'll show you the basics. We're going to draw like basically a circle, good sized circle here, medium sized circle just above the branch, little space there between the branch. I'm just going to be cartooning today, so I'm not trying to make something that looks totally realistic. I'm just trying to capture an idea that I got as I looked at this tree. Doesn't that look like the sun or the moon rising behind these trees? I love how with cartooning, you put a couple simple marks down, and then suddenly a whole world will start to form. I always feel like it's forming on its own. I just got an idea here. Let's do a couple trees in the background. These are going to be sort of far away, so they'll seem to be shorter. I want to feel like I'm up high, so I'll just put a couple lines, maybe different heights, maybe one over here, and then we can go in and turn these into, you know, my trick with the with evergreen trees. There's a couple ways to do it. Some people go right down the side, cartooning these evergreen trees, so it's like a huge long bottle cleaner brush arrow, right? And then it looks like it's all this, it's sort of equal all the way up. The other way to do it is to do this. You kind of go from a point and you make a brush coming down, and that looks ridiculous with a tall trunk like that. So you go just below that brush and you tuck another little brush under there. See, it's not a point. It's not like that kind of it's not like the point is touching the bottom. It's like the brush is tucked up under, so it goes up under there. And then you just go, really, you're just doing levels to this tree. And I'm just scribbling, and look at that. It becomes a tall, towering, shadowy tree. Not too dark. I'm going to put some levels of scribble on there. Let's do a couple levels of scribble on this one. And something about that repetition kind of creates a sense of a forest stretching out. Imagine that forest stretching out forever there. Or maybe it comes to something in the distance. Maybe you have something in the distance of yours. We're going to come back to this. Remember this, I didn't set out to do a sun and a moon there, so we'll come back to that in a moment. I just got this idea of having this forest in the background. Something made me think of that, and I kind of want to put that in there. Maybe you have like some smaller trees with branches in there, or maybe some shorter. I'm hesitant to bump these trees up against. Let's try it though. See, it passes behind that tree. I don't know if it'll look like it's too close to that tree if it visually touches it. Let's see if we can continue those branches behind. It looks different enough. It's scratchy instead of smooth. So maybe that'll work. Maybe I can tuck another shorter tree up against that trunk like that. Yeah, we'll see. Remember, I'm going to come back through this and I'll ink all these things with my pen and my marker here. So I'll have the chance, I can always leave like a little white buffer halo zone around that tree. That's a little trick I love to do. That kind of tricks your eye into seeing some space between them. I'll show you that when we're inking. All right, if you have any comments or ideas, feel free to add them in. Let us know what you're drawing. And then if you're over on the Patreon, you can post on the community page. You can post your pictures and then we can check it out. It's really fun to see what other people are drawing here. I'm adding a couple more branches in here. All right, back to my friend up here on this branch. This is my friend on this branch here. I'm going to give my friend a little bit of a top there, and that's going to be the head. So we can erase this connector. So we've got a big round body and a little head on top. Your head you can make it sort of wider. I think wider and smaller will look better. This is my bird friend. Got a lot of bird friends out there. And this one is in a very special pose because it's a very cold night or day here in this scene. And I have basically a circle, basically another little bump coming up. I can put two little eyes on there. Let's put two little cartoon eyes. Oh, this looks cute already. Let's put a little triangle beak. We can turn this into basically any kind of small northern songbird. If you're drawing birds like mine, you can give it a tuft if you want it to be a tufted, like a tufted titmouse, or you can give it a cap. If you want it to be a black-capped chickadee, we could give it a little black cap like that. And the bib. Give it a little bib like that. We'll darken that in. It's like a little collar, and then it scoops down and curves up like it's tied around the back of the neck. Oh, that's so cute. Or you can leave it blank, or you could turn it into an owl or a monster or whatever you want. But what I got when I saw my friend out there on the branch was, let's add some fluff lines. I'm going to curve these fluff lines down on the sides. Curve these fluff lines because it's so cold out there where I am. It's really snowy, really icy. Ahoy, Elena. And I'm doing these fluff lines hanging down off this circle here because that bird had her feathers all puffed up and she was basically like a big round ball. And then, this is the most surprising part to me, a single little line coming down to that branch. You can make it a little thicker than a line, or you can make it a skinny line Because if you believe in stick figures, oh my goodness, these birds have feet like stick figures, tiny, skinny little feet. I'm just going to do a little ball holding on to the branch. You can get into the, the claws if you want to. You can do little claws grabbing around the branch, but I'm a cartoonist. I'm going to work fairly fast. If you've ever tried to draw birds out there in the cold, you know how fast you have to work because your hands are shaking. The ink is freezing. So this chickadee is in the cold. Survival techniques here. She's puffed up her feathers. Let's give her some shading down here. If we do a little bit of shading, like another layer of light feather lines, see how that kind of shades her? Let's do a third layer even. We'll do a third layer. We'll darken the second layer. We're sort of fading the shadow, and then we'll darken the bottom layer even more. Ooh, that looks really nice. Doesn't that look round and curvy? Like this little ball of feathers is perched on this branch, and to keep 1 foot warm, she's tucked it up into this ball of feathers. Now, the actual bird is really tiny in here, but all those feathers and all that air keep her warm. And this foot is out in the cold, and after it gets cold, this foot will come down, and this one will tuck up, and it's this little tiny stick figure foot holding her to the branch there. If you want, you can try another one over here. Let's do a smaller one because sort of in the distance here. I'll do a slightly smaller circle. I'm going to repeat this because I notice they all kind of face the same way when they're facing into the wind or when they're watching for something. Do that same head on top. We'll erase that collar line and give her sleeping quiet eyes or resting eyes, little upside down triangle. Keep it super simple. A little cap on top. I just do like little arches over the eyes, and then you can darken in that cap. I'm penciling pretty lightly, and we'll ink in a couple minutes here. We'll do the collar on the neck, just under the beak. And then we'll go a little below that and give the bib there. We'll do a couple fluff lines on the back. We should also, let's tuck some wings on here. So we'll just do like a curving line on either side, almost like baseball stitching. Maybe a couple more shadow lines because those wings are kind of gray. I have a photograph I can show you. Let me see. Do I have a photo? Do we have a photo here? Oh, yeah. Look, check this out. All right, let's see. There's my chickadee friend. Now, that's my hand there. That's my left hand with a glove, and I put some bird seed on it. And I've been hanging out so long that they know me pretty well. So this chickadee friend has jumped up onto my fingertips, grabbed a seed, and is about to fly off. And there's that bib. Now, that doesn't look very fluffy, does it? Of course, when they fly, they have to unfluff those feathers, right? So these birds are not flying. They are resting. They are fluffed up so they can stay warm as they rest. Anchored on those little stick figure sticks there. Those little tiny skinny feet with no fat and no muscle. Just ligaments and claw. They're so gentle, though, when they land on your finger. There's one other friend I want to put in. So I have a whole story about this. I'm drawing a diary entry about it. And I will, let me zoom out on that. Let me go to my next friend. I'm drawing a diary entry about this bird, and I'll post that on the Patreon. Let's open up those eyes. So here's a better picture, a little more woken up. This bird had a little collision with my window right outside here. And this is a white-breasted nuthatch. And just because they came and they bonked into my window and had a rough morning, just before the live draw, I said, I'm going to draw you into this live draw. So the way that this one sits on the branch, they actually sit beak down. So I'm going to just draw this bird the same shape. It's like a little teardrop with the tail pointing up. And then we'll just scoop that hat over it. Give it a dot for an eye. Little beak. This is in the distance back there, watching these sleeping chickadees. And I think that's going to be about all we'll fit in for our cartoon nuthatch. All right, let's ink a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to come in here. I think I'm going to do my border with my marker. I have these Blick watercolor markers. They're nice. They're non-toxic. They don't have smelly fumes. Safe to use with a if you have a couple of them open at the same time, they're not going to make your head spin. Easy to clean up, but they also can blur. Should try doing some watercolor painting with them. But keep your page dry as you're inking. I think I'm going to these look like they just want to be gently inked with tiny, sketchy little lines. I don't think I want super bold, heavy lines on these because I want these to look like almost like the wind could blow through those feathers. They look so light and fluffy, and it'll just be kind of gray and shadowy. All right, there we go. Notice how I'm curving those lines. I'm going to curve the lines along the curve of the ball. That helps us see the ball. They're a little closer together down here at the bottom. A little closer together there. A little farther apart on the next row up. A little farther apart on the next row up. And that kind of fades them. Oh, those fluffy feathers. I like the look of that. I'm going to keep them kind of close together here. I'll post those photos too on the Patreon. When you zoom in, oh, I'm just so in love with how the feather patterns. Those nuthatches, I've never seen them up that close before. There's some amazing, beautiful line work in those feather patterns. I'll post the close-ups. I'm going to make this outline a little shaky there. See, because those feathers aren't totally smooth when they're really fluffed. And those eyes, you probably saw in the photo, the eyes of the chickadee are actually in the black cap. The black cap comes all the way down to the eyes. I'm going to do my black as like feather lines following the contours of the head. So I like that look. It's not pure black. It's got some grain to it, some texture. So I move the eyes down into the white just because it just makes this character, this cartoon version of a chickadee, a little easier to see. Let's make that bib scratchy too. It shouldn't look too smooth. It's a bunch of feathers colored black surrounded by white feathers. So, oh, that looks so cute. I love how that came out. I like the way the soft feathers kind of shade in here. That just would look a lot more cartoony or a lot harsher if I use this black line. But then let's give the feet, whoop, the cartoon foot, the anchor. That's just a cartoon little ball foot and a little stick. Let's see. I'm thinking this branch also will just, maybe I'll make these lines a little shaky like it's rough bark. See, I can wiggle that. Wiggle it as we draw. Just drawing down here and wiggling a little bit. And then I think the texture of this bark will be pretty shaky too. Maybe we can add some texture lines in there. This is going to be a texture cartoon. Oh, I like the look of that. It looks like I could reach out and it would feel really rough. Do that branch there. And let's finish this tree before anything else. What do you think? You think those evergreen trees in the back should be drawn dark with a marker? That would make them look really shadowy. Or maybe they'll be like really a lot of shaky, dark, thin lines, though. That'll make them look really rough and shaggy. I have not decided yet. I guess I'll wait till something occurs to me. Sometimes you can put off these decisions. We know how we're going to do this bird. A little lighter, little less. I'm not going to get so heavy in the shadows there. Maybe just one row of shadow, maybe two. And maybe not quite so dark on the cap because I want this one to seem a little further away. As we saw, closer up has darker, deeper shadows and brighter whites and lights, and further away has more grays and less contrast. I like the repetition too of these. If you go out and you look at a flock of birds sitting on those winter trees, if you have them around you, you'll see they repeat each other a lot. They all have similar things they do, similar ways they look. So it's kind of nice to have this repetition. We could populate a whole forest scene with these critters, and they could all be sleeping and resting. We have to think of how we want the sky to be. This sky could be all blacked in. I'm doing the bark automatically as I think about the sky. I know what the bark's going to be. It's these wiggly, rough lines. I see we're at 20 minutes, folks. So this is my aim, to do a 15 to 20 minute live draw every Friday. It's really fun to draw with you. I know people are coming and going somewhat, and it'd be great to see what you're drawing, whether you're drawing along with me or drawing something totally different. I've seen some really cool artwork. Hi to our friends at Disnard School. I've been working with them this week to make comics. Actually, I can show you that. We're making some comics. They're helping me with a French and Indian War comic about the Ohio River Valley and Fort Necessity. They're helping me fine-tune that and get the historical details right, and I'll be inking that soon. And hi to my friends over at Hinsdale Elementary. I've been working on, well, this will be a mini over on the Patreon. Once I draw it, I'm researching it. It's magnet birds, all about birds and magnetism, which I'm learning about. A surprise topic for the week. I will post that over at the Patreon. Let's put that down there in case you want to swing by. And if you join up there, you get all the invites and all the announcements about upcoming live draws, and you get the behind the scenes stuff, the sketches, the plans, some of the lessons that go into this stuff, and the sketchbook. We've got some fun sketchbook pages coming out this week too. Oh, and you also get graphic novels by mail as I finish them. So head on over to the Patreon. I'm going to finish inking this and I'll post this over there. See how I'm leaving a little white line there? So that hopefully will trick your eye into seeing those trees don't touch, that one's behind the other. Is that even a tree? Maybe I should give it a little branch off to the side. Maybe another branch. I'll finish inking this. There might be some surprises with the sky. I have some ideas of ways to go about that. I'll figure out how to do those trees in the background, and we'll see if it really looks nice and deep, like a deep forest scene. I might try to work some wind and snow in, but we'll see. Or maybe it'll just look like this. Thanks for drawing with us, everybody. Thank you so much to the Patreon patrons, and thanks to my students and host teachers. It's great to draw with all of you. Keep drawing, keep making those pictures, keep going out and having adventures out there safely with those birds and critters that live near you, and make lots of observations and then come back and try to cartoon them. And we'll be in touch. See you on Monday for a live draw too. And oh yeah, Nuthatch says goodbye. Have a great weekend, everybody.